Hi, this is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald. Welcome to my Star Atlas Week in Review podcast. This is podcast number 149. Any articles or videos mentioned can be found on my website at intergalacticherald.com. Just look for weekly recap newsletter 197. So, going to mix it up a little since it's the end of 2025 and the Star Atlas team is on break, so no Atlas Brews and, well, wasn't any content this week. So I'm going to actually do a Star Atlas year in review. So I'm going to break it into two chunks. Do part one, that'll come out first, and then obviously part two, kind of divide it up around summer of 2025, and to just kind of go through the highlights of what happened this past year in Star Atlas. But before I get to that, just wanted to mention a couple things that I'm doing in Star Atlas. One, of course, is my website, intergalacticherald.com. It's a great Star Atlas resource website. I have guides, directories of guilds, content creators, Star Atlas tools, and other things. You can also check out different recaps, and I do have an email sign up that you can get emailed to you Star Atlas Discord news announcements. Also have a Star Atlas merch store at intergalacticgear.com. Open for business, not a lot of selection. Got some mugs, but you can check that out. And also, if you want to join other Star Atlas gamers trying to get together a community of people who aren't going to be joining guilds, but nevertheless want to hang out with other Star Atlas gamers, please check out intergalacticcoalition.com for that. So as I mentioned, I'm going to do kind of a year in review of Star Atlas. And what I did is I went back through all my weekly newsletters and pulled out different highlights. So I'll kind of go through that so we can kind of go through what happened this past year. If I mention dates, it is in relation to when my newsletter came out, not necessarily when that specific event or announcement or whatever happened. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Again, if you want to find out different things, please check out the newsletter. I'll have some links in there to some of the other newsletters you can look at. So anyways, so that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and get into what happened this past year in Star Atlas. So going back to January of 2025, again, similar pattern happened as this year, which was the Star Atlas team did a town hall at the end of the year and then took their 2-week kind of studio break. So kind of mid-January 12th, Michael Wagner, the CEO, did make an announcement about some Sage transaction issues. As I recall, things weren't, when you tried to, what do you do with a transaction? Accept it. Those weren't happening and things like that. So they actually, unfortunately, we were dealing with lots of different issues at the time. What was interesting, and I'll do this kind of through there. I won't just do a laundry list. I'll either give some thoughts or actually, say, spoiler alert, because this didn't happen. So this was, I think, in hindsight, the kind of start of the whole, at the time, was the idea of maybe having our own blockchain. But as we now know, as the Zinc blockchain, I think that was sort of one of the points where the team was looking at this, hey, this might be something they need to do. Later in January, we did get the 4-year anniversary of when Star Atlas was actually announced. I haven't been with it that long, but somewhere there. So I think I'm only, now 4, but 3 back then. So anyways, yeah, so I guess sometime in January was the first announcement. At the end of January, one of the big things that occurred is the Discord Foundation Room. So this is now it's read-only, but back then it was actually private. This was a way for certain people to be able to get in, to be able to ask questions of the Star Atlas team. Decision was made in late January to make it read-only. Still couldn't post, but at least you could read. And so that actually allowed for more sharing of information and things like that. Additionally, there was a mention kind of a 2025 look ahead, and so I'll kind of dissect this because here's what they said was coming in 2025. Again, this was early 2025. Fleet rentals, we did get that. UE5 definitely did have not a constant cadence, kind of slowed down a little bit in the last half of the year, but definitely updates to UE5 came pretty consistently. Community Week, yep, definitely was, and they even expanded that. I mentioned a hackathon. Nope, didn't happen. Sage, and I'm not exactly sure because at the town hall a year ago, that was the first time they ever mentioned the C4 idea. So I'm not sure if this was more changes Sage or this was C4 or what. And then the last thing that was mentioned kind of as a look ahead was the Atlas Locker, and that did not occur this year. So In early February of 2025, at one of the UE5 updates, and so this was kind of the monthly cadence. One of the interesting things back then, and I think it still continues to this day, you don't need a wallet to play, and so this was the first time that was removed. Now, I think there's still benefits of adding the wallet, especially with some of the tracking and now with the Zinc airdrop experience thing, but it was, again, a way that people could finally get into it. Next week in February, at the monthly economic forum, there was an announcement they were going to do a free-to-play test, and they were kind of going through this. As we now know, this came out as basically the Holosim product, so yeah, that had been kind of in the works most of the year. Middle of February, there was this announcement of the Atlas Locker addendum being published, and like I said, nothing came of it this year, but it still sounds like it's on the roadmap. And again, this was an idea where they'd, I think, add a couple more levels to the Atlas Locker, but add a lot more benefits. And one of those benefits was going to be the substitution of Solana fees, which with Zinc coming out now, I guess doesn't really have as much appeal. So who knows what's going to come out of that. Also, that mid-February, they did announce the fleet rental system coming. It was a little bit quiet for a few more weeks, and then early March, the fleet rental did launch, and there was more information at the Econ Forum on the free-to-play development, which, again, we now know is Holosim. Mid-March, there was an announcement of an investment from Shaga, which was a cloud gaming system. The way this worked was you could, I guess, install something on your PC, and then people on other devices like mobile or tablets could then control remotely. Unfortunately, I haven't heard anything about that since then, so not sure what happened to that in hindsight. Later in March, another UE5 patch came out, and so this again was that kind of cadence of one version of UE5, UE5 once a month. And then at the end of March, I think this was posted in the Foundation Room, the mobile app was mentioned that it was going to be sidelined indefinitely. And if I remember correctly, it was that the system to kind of track movement was not able to be secured enough, so it couldn't be hacked or manipulated, and so it just couldn't go forward. I mentioned at the time I was quite disappointed in that because it sure felt like that was the real benefit of the Crew cards so that we could have the mobile app. And guys, since then, Crew hasn't really done that much. So there also was a partnership mentioned with somebody called ASI Alliance, which was some AI things. Haven't heard anything of that since then. So anyway, so had a kind of quiet start to April, and then they had some roadmap updates in late April. But again, April was kind of a quiet month. In, May, there was an announcement, I forget what they were called, but a new group was formed so they could have UE5 game testers. Totally forgot what the name of it is. Definitely a lot of information at that time, but I have to admit, it kind of has gone quiet. I haven't really heard anything from that. Now, those game testers were under NDAs and things like that, so they still may be involved, but of course can't talk about what they're doing. So yeah, I guess it doesn't mean that they aren't still there, just haven't heard of them. Early or mid-May, there was another UE5 patch, and again, so definitely there's an ongoing monthly thing. Also, in the end of May, the first iOS Quest tournament. So this was a community-driven, I think it was one of the guilds started a tournament basically to play, got different teams together, had not round robin, but tournaments, and then, whoever won the last tournament there. So I think that was maybe not the first, but definitely the most publicized kind of tournaments. And again, it was made possible by some of the changes and the ongoing changes to the EU5 client. Early June, they did a town hall, and at this town hall, they gave some updates on the C4, which again is this next version of Sage, updates on the UE5, and I think this was the first time they actually announced Holosim as a product. Mid June, they mentioned the Star Path, which was the referral program, was finally ending, and again, gave more additional information about the C4. In fact, if I remember correctly, there was kind of a lot of nice kind of updates and things like that. And also near the end of June, they announced the upcoming Community Week coming in the rest of the summer. So yeah, so that's pretty much the first half of the year. Kind of thinking back on that, definitely had a lot of good cadence with the UE5 updates. The fleet rental system came out. Unfortunately, I think after a few months, it became, not sure for sure it was botted, but again, reading some of the comments in the Discord, people weren't able to get a fleet. It was automatically kind of renewed, or again, I had memories of like eBay where you never could get things once the auction was dying or ending it. So yeah, so the fleet rentals exist, but kind of has died down, I think. So yeah, UE5, definitely the tournaments, which have continued since then on different people hosting them. The Town Hall was a great midsummer update, which I think they had done the year before. So definitely in this kind of cadence of one Town Hall in the summer, one in the end of the year. So everything's kind of good there. Yeah, disappointed on the mobile app disappearing. Nothing on the Atlas Locker, and some partnerships that haven't really gone very far since then. So yeah, so that was pretty much it. Again, some quietness. And again, was this calm before the storm because there were a lot of things released in the second half of the year, but you're going to have to wait to the next podcast a week from now to hear that. So again, that's the first part of the year. So I haven't been playing Star Atlas, so I won't even talk about what I've been doing. But anyway, so that's it. Thanks for listening to that. Again, totally open if anybody wants to be a guest on the podcast. You can reach out to me through my website, intergalacticherald.com. While you're there, do check out any of the guides, directories, or recaps, or my Discord newsfeed. If you're interested in a Star Atlas mug, please check out intergalacticgear.com, and love to get together with some other Star Atlas gamers. I have an interest survey at intergalacticcoalition.com. Other than that, this is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald. Depending on when you're listening to this, hope you've had a good holidays, or will have a good holidays, or whatever. And again, that's this first half of this year in this year in Star Atlas review. No, Star Atlas year in review, first half. Anyways, have a great week ahead. This is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald.